soul has all these deep, wonderful intentions to be able to do a lot. But if the body is not in good energy space, you can't do it. It's like the driver has all the enthusiasm, but the car just won't start. So it's not a good idea. So today, again, for our second session with our sister Shantha Beeharie, who's a holistic health therapist and has an amazing intuitive energy, more than I've really realized over a period of time how she intuitively knows the body, and she'll look at my toes and tell me, this thing needs a little bit of more attention. So it's very interesting. So welcome again, Shantha. You have to unmute yourself, Shantha. Shantha, unmute yourself.
Okay. Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
There we go.
Good morning.
That's better.
Good morning, everyone.
Good. So, Shantha, we were spending the week tapping all over, and I think it helped a lot. And I'm sure somebody in this group also may later want to share their experience with tapping that they may have experienced in this week. Just a few thoughts that I wanted to ask you today, Shantha, was that in the world today, we see that people are getting sick and there's a lot of disease. And on the one side, we do have medicine that can work in a certain way. But also on the other hand, we look at holistic therapies. And what do you see in many people that you see? I know you're very busy, but in the many people that you see, what do you see is the need? What kind of help do they need to get their body going? What are the other therapies besides just popping a pill? When things happen, what can they do so that it's like getting this body, which is our car, going once again so that the driver can do its work? Yeah. So what's your thoughts? What is it that we need to be doing more and more? What kind of therapies are out there which creates a resonance with soul and body relationship?
Thank you, Sister Dipti. I think three therapies come to mind straight away. One is acupuncture, and the second one is Reiki, and the third one is art therapy. So with acupuncture, it's a very ancient art of healing. It's been practiced for the last 100 years. And what they use is they use tiny needles, acupuncture needles, which they insert into specific parts of the body. And that actually is so amazing because within a few minutes clears the blockages. And that's become quite popular. Recently, I just qualified and I studied auricular therapy, which is just using needles just on the ears. So just by inserting needles on 5 points of the ears, and I know you've experienced it because I've done it too, and just by inserting 5 needles on your 5 little needles on your ears, it's amazing the effect that it can have. And I'll tell you quickly just the 5 organs that get healed straight away when you do this auricular therapy. It's not the entire body, but just on the ear, where if somebody doesn't have time, it takes literally 5 minutes, and it's such a wonderful therapy to have. It's actually you're working on the heart, you're working on your stress system, which is the sympathetic nervous system that releases the stress straight away. You're working on the kidney, the liver, which takes a lot of strain in this day and age, and you're working on the lungs. So straight away, you are accessing 5 organs in your body just by applying those needles. And some of the benefits is, with stress, insomnia, a multitude of therapies that can be healed by using acupuncture. Not invasive, it doesn't have any tablets, there's no residue, because that's the main thing, is when you are taking a lot of medication, a lot of residue, it's a lot of strain on the body. So I would say acupuncture would be one of the wonderful therapies. The other therapy that you can use is, which is also very good, is art therapy. Healing through colors. And I know there's another sister of ours, Shanti Govender, who does a lot of artwork, and she teaches how to heal your body with different colors, different art, different kinds of specific structure ways. That's a very healing and a relaxing therapy. It relaxes the person. And it's something that's wonderful for somebody to start doing. And the other one is Reiki, which seems to be very popular. I would say why it's popular is because somebody is there in a very loving, nurturing manner. It's actually relaxing you through a series of like a palm exercises. And I would say the most important thing with that is the power of thought and the positivity that somebody is actually putting into your body. So it means that the practitioner herself has to be calm, has to have that loving, warm nature. And in this critical day and age where people are rushing around, people need love, they need care. So I don't know, this therapy seems to work very well because I do a multitude of therapies, and often people ask me, do you do Reiki? So I notice that's one of the energies that people really seem to enjoy. I think it's the touch. You can't beat the human touch anytime. That could never
Mm.
be replaced. And love.
One
So love can never be
love.
replaced.
Mm. One thing that's coming
Yes.
through from all the therapies that you're talking about is that there's often a blockage of energy, right? And as you talked about every of these therapies, it's like you're releasing a blockage and you're releasing an energy flow. And this is quite interesting because when the soul is in a peaceful state and calm, it's like it gives so much good energy and light to the body. It was like today in our morning class, there's a very interesting line that came up right in the beginning, that when you remember the Father, you get released of all the aches and pains and suffering of your body. And how that actually works is that when you're creating good thoughts in your mind, that energy flows in your body. So I suppose what you're talking about is when the mind is in such confusion and tightness and blockage in that way, then you sometimes do need a physical therapy to help unblock that so that the person can work with the mind as well, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah. And so I was just thinking as we've been talking, one other aspect that seems to be very real today, when we talk about the power of the mind and to allow the mind to work in a very, very powerful way, is food. I know spiritually conscious people are very much aware of what they put into their bodies because, as they say, as is your food, so is your mind. But I know that you also have studied Ayurveda very, very specifically and in depth. And can you tell us about how to understand food? Because every time you can see something that somebody's put on their WhatsApp and they say, oh, bananas are very good for you, or this is very good for you. And everyone goes and buys it and thinks it's very good for them. But it actually doesn't really work that way, isn't it? You have to understand body type and you have to understand. Tell us more about the relationship of understanding food and your body.
Okay, thanks, Dippy. I think that's such a wonderful question, and I think this is going to be something that helps everyone so much. There is no proper healthy overall diet. It's not the whole roast and the cheese and the lettuce that's good for everyone. So eating according to our body type is very, very important in Ayurveda. But let's go back. Let me first you understand that we have five elements. The universe is made of five elements. Our body is made of five elements. And the five elements are air, space, fire, earth, and water. Now we have all these elements in our body, but actually for some of us, elements dominate us than the others. More fire, so they are more fiery spirit. Their body type needs a totally different diet. Some people are more earthy, earth and water. So let me just tell you quickly, briefly. There's three body types in Ayurveda, which we call Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So Vata people are very lightweight. They're very lean. They're very thin, and they generally tend to get very stressed and very emotional. They're very fearsome. They're not very confident in their own way. Somehow the air element kind of like imbalances them. So for that kind of person, a diet that's full of what we would think is healthy is actually not good for them. So anything that grows above the ground, like lettuce, cabbage, cauliflower, spinach, which is excellent, for the Vata type, it's not very good. They mustn't eat excess of it because it has the element of air, it grows above the ground, and it creates a lot of air in them and gases, bloating. So for that Vata person, they need a diet that's more solid. They need, like in the Indian language, you call tree. They need warm soups. They need nourishing food. They definitely don't need Pravita biscuits, dry toast, whole wheat toast. That's not for them. I would say that kind of person can go for jungle oats. Basically, I'm trying to say is they can eat because they're so lightweight. They can have warm, nourishing food. And then we come to the fiery types, the ones that are very determined, they're very generally highly intelligent or more professional people. And with that kind of person, generally, anything sour, too much of tomatoes, too much of things that cause acid, because that what we call the pitta is actually primarily found in our stomach. It's to do with the transformation of the food. So that kind of person mustn't have too much of sour cream, vinegar, anything to do with sour things really put them off. That it's not good food for them. Recently, he said to me, as you said, all foods are good. We were eating Karela. And I mean, I ate it, but I'm like, oh, this is not for me. I just knew that as much as it's good, but I just knew this food is not for me. It was actually causing not a good feeling in me. So it just shows that body will often tell you that a certain food is good for you. But what happens with us sometimes, what's not good for us, that's the one we want. That's the unfortunate part of our nature. And then the third type is the kapha type, which is primarily earth and water. These are wonderful earthy souls. They're gentle, they're kind, they're a little more substantial in weight, but they're just the kind of people that you want to be with. You want to be near them because they're very stable and very grounded. Sort of earth and water that dominates their personality. Just he makes them lovely, wonderful warriors. And now when it comes to food, it can be very tricky because they could be having all these sweets, desserts, all that kind of thing, and like fried chops and like the heavy food. A kapha person must not have heavy food because the heavy foods make them heavier. Then it makes them feel like getting up in the morning. They don't feel like moving. It just sort of makes them more earthbound. So this kind of person needs to get up, move, have some exercise. They need to be stimulated to get them going. They need healthy food. So whatever the vata have is what the kapha person must have. They must have the spinach, lettuce, cauliflower, cabbage, all the food that kind of sort of bring up their energy. So it's such a strange dynamic, but it's such an interesting dynamic that our food can make such a difference to our mind and our state of our body. I hope
Yeah,
that
that's,
explains a
mm,
bit of the body type.
yeah. And so, yes, the whole aspect of firstly eating the right type of food. And I suppose the second most important step would be then for when we look at food and body and spirit in that ways, with each of these types, it's consciousness, isn't it? Consciousness whilst cooking is so important. But sometimes people can eat the best ingredients, but they're hectic. They're all over the show, or they're angry, or they're fighting with someone, and they're cooking the food. So is that healthy food?
Definitely not. Definitely not. Often people are advised to take things like special oils in the morning or certain smoothies, and often they don't like what they're taking because it's not second to their nature. And if they're taking it with that sort of consciousness that oh, I don't really like this, actually it's of no benefit at all. Their body is not benefiting. It's saying, oh, I don't really like this. And the body is kind of rejecting it. So even although you're taking something so expensive and so wonderful, it's never going to really nourish you. So our thoughts and our mind in how we actually take something is very important. Definitely, I worked for years in a hotel, for 14 years. And I often saw those chefs banging pots, shouting at each other and everything. And I just thought, wow, that kind of food is not going well with customers and the clients because definitely your state of mind, whatever my state of mind, that's exactly the energy I'm going to be putting into the food. like it's a state of my mind. That's exactly how the client is feeling. I'm all agitated. That's exactly the energy that's going to the food. So the mind is so important into whatever we do.
Wonderful. And I'm sure that our wonderful family that's with us this morning has been listening to this whole experience as well. And I'm sure you'd like to share some of your experiences regarding anything that Shantha has talked about, or something you've practiced, or something you'd like to ask. So feel free, because today is Healthy Monday morning. And so we have the aim on a Monday to have a certain practice that we can keep in practice for the week, so that the car that we are driving, because we are souls, and the car that we are driving is in good spirit and in good energy, so we can do what we need to do. So anyone, anything you'd like to ask, any thoughts, any questions you may have, feel free. We've got a few more minutes, and it will be lovely to take in some questions. Anybody? Did you try your tapping at least?
Yes.
Yeah. Any thoughts, anyone? Feel free to ask.
Good morning. Yesterday, I didn't have a chance to connect. Today, actually, my first time ever for this monthly program. Tapping, I have been doing on and off, so I'm aware of it, and I felt the benefit. But about today's topic, I actually observe it before I come to the, elevated knowledge. I experienced it with my cousins, that whatever actually in their childhood I was observing, and I remembered years back what happened when their mothers was feeding them, and if said something about like, oh, they like it, they will eat it. And I remember my cousins used to open their mouths. And when the mother doesn't like that food and didn't want to feed my cousins, and said, oh, he doesn't like it for my cousin. And my cousin responded. So it's what I'm confirming as the speaker, and you yourself, Diptiben, said, consciousness, really consciousness runs our body. And about my experience a year later, when I come to Gyan, the knowledge that I cooked on purpose for my mother to get better for her health. And she's 93. At the time, it was 91, I think. Unbelievable development and a sudden change in her health. And so for that reason, you can imagine I'm doing it for myself as well, but consciousness is everything. So what I do when I prepare my ingredients, sorry for taking long, but I just wanted to share because I'm really touched by the topic of today. So when I prepare my ingredients before cooking, I actually prepare the ingredients of the mind. Thank you very much for the topic, for the host. Beautiful. And for the speaker. Thank you.
Lovely. Yeah, so beautiful as your choice of words, preparing the ingredients of the mind. Yeah. Then there's in the chat, let me just read it from Monene. Good morning, sisters. What's your thoughts on reflexology therapy, foot reflexology in particular? Yes, Sister Shantha, can you talk about that? I know you just always look at my feet and say, oh, your stomach needs attention. This needs attention.
Yes. Reflexology is one of the best.
Can you talk a little louder, or is it really just me? One moment. Yeah. Can you try again?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I think reflexology definitely one of the best practices that you can have, because what you're doing is you're working on the entire body. Your entire body is actually mapped out in your foot. So just by working on the feet, you can actually bring what we call bringing the body to a homeostasis. So every organ that's overworked, that's overstrung down, every organ that's underworked or that's functioning correctly, you can stimulate it. One of the best therapies to have. And if you want to do a natural reflexology for yourself, walking barefoot, you walk on the sand, that's very, or if you just take a rolling pin, a normal rolling pin, and roll your feet, what it will do, it will stimulate all the reflexes on your feet. So maybe everyone can try it this week. If you've got a reflexology roller rate, but if you don't, you can just take a normal as watching television or just sitting and chatting. You can roll your feet and it actually heals and balances every part of your organ. Reflexology,
Wonderful.
one of the best therapies.
So this week we're going to be rolling our feet and I suppose also part of it is walking on lawn, isn't it? On just earthing the body in that way would be lovely. So there's a few more messages, lovely on the chat. It says, good morning, sister. As you get a chance, kindly share a few recipes that's holistic. Thank you. So we will make a plan of that. And then Danielle shared very beautifully. I also noticed when I make tea for people in soul consciousness and visualize that person in their perfect form, I really do see a change in behavior. They are more relaxed and happy. That's wonderful. It's practical things we can do. Yeah. And then somebody's asking about the gallstone flush, which you can speak to them about. And Monene is saying, thank you very much. Yeah. So we see different aspects that's come up, but just remember that your body is a valuable instrument which carries the soul. And so it's not that we get preoccupied in the body, but when the body is well, the soul becomes free to do the real work it needs to do. So wonderful, Sister Shanta, and I'm sure we can meet again and continue with that. And so we talked about the body, and now we're going to the immunity of the soul. So Sister Nita, welcome.
Good
Welcome.
morning. Lovely to see you, Shanta, and lovely to hear some of your insights. I think it was such a invaluable, informative session. And as Shanta was sharing and the conversations you sparked off, just provided me with an opportunity to see which category of body do I fall into, because it was easy to identify then. And so thank you both for bringing in that kind of awareness. So
thank you, Nita.